All right, welcome back to the channel. Jaron Ennis, sabotaged by Matchroom and Turki Alalshiekh, apparently, as the impossible happens. And Matchroom magically runs out of money to make a fight with Jaron Ennis. Let's talk about that and what it looks like to me the end game is in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanan. And in this video, I'm calling BS as some news came out yesterday about the IBF champion, Jaron Ennis, and the fight that was ordered for him with Hearn for his 147-pound IBF title. Shockingly, a purse bid was held for the fight. Number one, why is there a purse bid? Number two, when the purse bid happens, Eddie Hearn loses. He loses in a bid of $1.56 million and loses to a German promotional company named P2M Promotions, who bid $2 million. So roughly $400,000 difference between what Eddie Hearn bid and what this promoter, Hearn promoter, bid. So Eddie Hearn loses. And what does that mean? It means if Jaron Ennis is to keep his title at 147 pounds, he's going to have to fight under the promotional umbrella of Hearn, because Eddie Hearn and Matchroom do not own the rights to the fight. How can this happen? It can happen if you let it happen. And that's the only way that I can really think that this took place. I don't believe for a second that Eddie Hearn thought $1.5 million bid was going to get that fight done. I don't, because if you look at the 1.5, I think, what is it, 70% of it goes to Jaron, the 30% for the IBF. I think it's 70-30 for the IBF. It's not, correct me. But whatever the percentage is, you're not, that was not going to let it float. I don't believe that he did. What I believe that he did, though, is the following. I believe that he, Eddie Hearn, is going through the motions with Jaron Ennis, trying to get Jaron Ennis fights at 147. But I don't think he's serious about closing those deals. I don't think he was serious about trying to get Brian Norman. I don't think that he was very serious about getting any other fight for who was the other person that they said that they had sent an offer to. I think they sent an offer to Ennis. And everybody that said anything about the offer coming from Eddie Hearn for a fight with Jaron Ennis was, I'm not fighting Jaron Ennis for that money. That's no money. You got to make a serious offer. So there is something in boxing called lowballing somebody so you don't have to fight them, but you can say that you tried to make the fight. So I just think Eddie Hearn went through the motions for Jaron, because I do believe Jaron wants to fight those guys, but I don't think Eddie wants Jaron to fight those guys. And I'm going to tell you what I think Eddie Hearn wants. I think he wants him to go to 154 pounds so that he can, number one, move Jaron Ennis to where Terrence Crawford is, to where Errol Spence is, and to where a lot of the action is right now at 154 pounds. Then you have on the other side, you have a trash fighter who got caught juicing up named Conor Benn, who Eddie Hearn hopes will be out of suspension in the next month. So who do you think will be fighting for the IBF title? I bet you he tries to worm Conor Benn into a title shot for a 147-pound belt that Jaron had. Give those fights down there to Conor Benn and move Jaron Ennis up to 154 pounds. Now, why would he do that? Because number one, if he can rebuild Conor Benn will be a really big name and a big star and all that over there in the UK where the guy comes from. I don't think these dudes really want to make American fighters stars. I just don't. It doesn't seem like that's what they're really working to do. But Jaron Ennis is kind of stuck. So Jaron is going to go to 154. And yeah, there's more fights there. There are more fighters there. But you know what the problem is when there's more fighters there? There's more fighters for everybody to fight. And if Jaron Ennis moves up to 154, he doesn't have a title. You're going to put him in the title position and then try to find a way to win a purse bid up to 154. You put him back into contender status. You're putting him back into contender status. He had one title defense at 100, one title fight at 154 and move him to at 147 and move him to 154. Bud ain't going to fight him. Errol is not going to fight him. There's nobody over there at the PBC that is extra motivated to lose to Jaron Ennis. And then what's going to happen if Jaron Ennis becomes the mandatory for a particular belt? Is Eddie Hearn going to be able to win the purse bid? Probably not. But anyway, man, it's real funny to me, man. Like, it just seems to me that the answer to a lot of these American stars' problems are very obvious. Just sign with it. He should be with Al Heyman. There are certain matchups in certain situations where a fighter and a promoter, they match up well and they should work together. One great example of that is Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn. There's no better scenario, I think. I don't think there's any better scenario for a promoter or a matchup between promoters and for Anthony Joshua than Eddie Hearn. One is from the UK. They're both from the UK. All signs say that Eddie Hearn is very dedicated to Anthony Joshua, and that's a good matchup. They run in the same crowds. He can build Anthony Joshua and did a great job building Anthony Joshua. Eddie Hearn doesn't even know what Decatur, Georgia is. Like, how are you going to promote in the United States if you look up Brian Norman Jr. and you say, hey, let me look up this kid, Brian Norman Jr. Where is he from? Decatur, Georgia. Yeah, I'll have the fight in Decatur, Georgia. Eddie, Decatur, Georgia is right down the street from Atlanta, which is one of the wealthiest cities for Black Americans in the country. Probably one of the wealthiest cities for Black people in the world. They can afford tickets. They can afford sports tickets and pay-per-views out of Atlanta. Matter of fact, Gervonta Davis went down to Atlanta and sold out. So if you have Brian Norman that's in Atlanta, you would think that you would put Brian Norman in Atlanta. Now, this is Top Rank, right? But anyway, Bob Arum even admitted that he doesn't really know how to promote to these younger folk, and there's an age gap, but there's also a domestic gap. And Eddie Hearn, I don't think Eddie Hearn and Turki Alalshiekh know the United States well enough to really do anything with the immense amount of talent that they got in Jaron Ennis. And look. Don't tell me that the talent level of Jaron Ennis alone is guaranteed to make it pop. It's not. Because if $1 billion from DAZN can't take over American boxing, and a bunch of money being thrown out the window and burned on piles by Saudi Arabia's PIF fund can't take over American boxing, then how are you going to tell me that Jaron Ennis, because of his talent, is just going to be able to do it? He needs a team that understands the United States of America, understands the market, and are dedicated to him. And I suspect that some people have to get over the mentality that a black dude running a company is not sneaking, stealing from you and doing all that stuff. And he really is the best guy for you. But I'm telling you, man, I am a huge Jaron Ennis fan, but I'm not hopeful about what's going on with him for the next couple of years with Eddie Hearn or Shakur Stevenson. Those guys aren't making big fights. They're pointing fingers at people, telling other people that they're not making fights. But then when you see that they got an opportunity to do it, what does Eddie Hearn do? He just basically play acts his way through it, just like with Deontay and Anthony Joshua. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.